What's going on, Internet? Welcome back to the URL versus IRL podcast. I am your host, Lynch, and I am so excited for today's episode. I know I say that in the beginning of every single episode, but listen to me. It's not just me on this podcast today, okay? And it's not just me with one other co-host. I have 3 other fucking co-hosts with me today, all right? We've got the OGs, Josh and Ryan, with us, and we also have Casey on board today. So this is going to be a fucking fun one. Hopefully we don't talk for like 2 hours. Let's just roll the intro music and get straight into it. URL versus IRL. Hosted by Lynch. Welcome back to the fucking podcast, you guys.
Hello.
Holy shit.
Hey.
How's it going?
This is our first 4-person podcast. I'm honestly fucking nervous. Are you guys nervous?
It's going to sound crazy with like 4 people just
Now everyone
spitting
talk
off.
at once.
Everybody just...
Yay! Ryan has not even spoken
I'm
yet.
trying to play my role.
Why are you so fucking quiet over there, Ryan?
Ryan's just like, let me observe.
Honestly, no. Ryan was so self-conscious after the Thanksgiving episode came out. Like, he was like, why didn't you guys tell me to shut the fuck up?
Literally texted you guys. I was like, I think I talked for the entire hour and a half.
No, not true. You know what? Honestly, Ryan, I love having you on the podcast because every time you come on, I have perfect cutting points every single fucking time. Like, you just transition us into the next part of the conversation so seamlessly every single fucking time.
I do want to defend myself that the edit does make it seem like I'm talking even more than I actually am.
No, but you're doing a fucking great job, dude. You're doing a fucking great job. I'm super excited for today. How were you guys' holidays? Everybody do good?
What's the vibe check?
Pretty good.
How's the temperature?
You know.
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah?
Like, I just started a new job. So
Hell
like,
yeah, that's fucking right.
Yeah, so, like,
after you moved away from us for your fucking job. So.
Yeah. I mean, it was half job, half other thing. But yeah, like I'm couple weeks into a new job right now. So like I'm feeling pretty swell.
You know what? To be honest with you, I feel like that's kind of generally speaking of where this conversation is going today.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I wanted
That's
to
a
talk
good
to you guys.
segue.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys about your definitions of success because believe it or not, Internet, we actually had a whole nother like 20 to 25 minutes worth of the Thanksgiving episode that I ended up cutting because I felt like it could be its own conversation. And we all kind of jumped into like our definitions of success in a weird way.
Yes, we did.
So I felt like we could just have that conversation today because I think it's different for everyone. And I feel like especially going into Christmas where like maybe if you didn't see your whole family on Thanksgiving, you're about to be having these conversations right now on Christmas time. So, yeah. That's kind of my thought process.
Success. I feel like success is a complex topic for everyone.
Yeah.
Success is funny because, like you said, everybody has their own granular way of kind of putting it. Like, everybody has a different variation of how they define it. For me specifically, I think it's hard to have these kind of conversations with family. I come from a big family, so everybody's doing completely different things with their life, and it feels like if you're not doing the thing that you said you were going to do maybe 5 years ago or maybe 10 years ago, you feel like you're falling flat. And like we did the episode, us 3, Ryan, Bree, we did the high school reunion episode. When we did the high school reunion episode, we talked a little bit about like where did we think we were going to be 10 years for our high school reunion versus like where we are now. And like for me personally, I am nowhere where I thought I would be 10 years later. I mean, it's weird because I spent my majority of my professional life in the military, and then outside of it, I didn't really have a lot going on outside. So I've had to navigate life after that. So early on, my definition of success in life was curated more so from my father. And just like his ideology of you had to be essentially working what would be deemed as like blue collar type work, or you have to be doing like physical manual labor in order to call a job essentially,
right?
And then also to be defining a level of success if I had to put it into like a shorter term of like where I feel his ideology came from. He it was very deranged at the time, and not for nothing, bless his soul, I still think it's deranged. I still think it's a deranged ideology, as I'm now going to be 29 in January.
29? Sorry.
As I'm now approaching 29.
I can't stop doing that.
I've stopped caring so heavily about feeling like I need to be at that level that he wanted me to be at when he was around, and or be at that level that other people expect of me heavily. Like, if I'm not a complete and utter dirtbag with my life, I feel I'm doing okay. And I mean, a dirtbag could be defined in any definition.
Yeah.
But like, I think I'm doing fine in my own life. You know, I've got a job and I go to school full time, and my school is hopefully going to help me pursue an even more expansive career.
Brother, you own a house. Like,
Yeah, you have a fucking
you're
house.
ahead.
You're
ahead
ahead
of
than the three of us sitting
I
here.
think of success and I'm like, damn, I will be successful when I can own a house.
80% of
I feel like
millennials
that
wish
too.
they were you.
You know what's
Yeah,
funny?
it's true.
You know what's funny? I thought owning a house was going to be successful, and I worked my absolute ass off to get my house.
Sure.
Like blood, sweat, and
Right.
tears to get that thing, because it was not easy. I had almost little to no guidance on how to get a house.
Who does anymore?
Which is
Right.
funny, because like I had parents who got their own houses before, and like they more than likely would have been willing to help me. But you would have to understand my family dynamic. Even the podcast viewers, you would have to understand my family dynamic a little better, to understand that like I was definitely more so the middle child / I wasn't even really the true middle child. I was like the second to middle child, really. But I lived with that almost middle child black sheep complex where my family was paying attention to me to a degree, but I feel like there could have been more attentiveness to certain attributes that I was exhibiting and things that I was doing in my life. And so I now see this years later, and I'm like, I don't know. I think owning a house, going back to it really quickly, owning a house.
Josh is running this podcast.
Owning a house at first seemed like the most successful thing I could have done in my time, but I didn't really have a lot of guidance from family, so I felt a lot of pride in that.
Sure.
Getting the place by myself and doing everything financially by myself, but then I was like, it didn't feel successful at that time, because I felt I gave so much energy into it, and it wasn't immediately gratifying or rewarding. I've owned the house for now 3 years, and I feel like every single time I step into a new hoop and hurdle of just a new fucking issue that goes
Right.
on in the house, and it's like it's hitting me left and right. It's like it always feels like something arises every single time,
Right.
and all I have to do is blink.
Right.
Literally. So yes, there's that level. I do take like, I do extend gratitude in my own realm where I'm like, I have a house.
Yeah.
Many people do not. I don't think that's where my end all be all for definition of success ends.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think I don't even have a definitive definition. I think it's ever expanding for me
I think
now
it's
at
always
this point.
expanding, right?
And I can't wait to hear your take on it.
I'm gearing up
I
over
know
here.
you're like,
Yes.
I can't wait to hear your take on it, because I feel like we're gonna have a synonymous take on it. But I definitely feel like now, the older I've gotten, I don't know how to narrow it down to one specific thing.
I don't know if it should be narrowed down to one
And
specific thing.
I agree. I don't think success should be measured by a definitive thing by any means, because you're gonna see with the age of the internet, you're gonna see so many things online that are telling you, like, as a man, as a woman, this is the definition of
Right.
success. This is the definition of success. You need to have this many cars and this many houses. You
This
need
many
to,
Instagram followers,
You,
like-
need
Yeah.
to, you need to, and now it's gotten to the point where
Yeah.
now we're gamifying. There's a term that called gamification, where they believe that modern life is being turned into a video game, where people are now treating the modern world as a video game. I might have talked about it in past podcasts.
Oh shit, we'll get into that.
And we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, that it does feel like that. It feels like people treat it like a game where they're not actually truly with their own moral value finding out what success really means to them.
Listening to you talk, I actually don't think I've ever felt more like on the same page, because I actually am a true middle child, like middle of three. And I think a lot of what I defined as success growing up, not so much anymore. I feel like I've had a big metamorphosis in that way.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was fueled from like parentification of being the
Therapy
kid,
terms.
like, of
Mine with
being-
the therapy
but,
terms
like-
every single fucking episode.
But it's true though, like of being the one that like, we don't have to worry about him. Like,
Yeah.
And for me with my like definition of success, it was always self-imposed. I didn't have parents or, anybody kind of telling me what what defines success. I was defining that on my own, on the fly, and that was really damaging at times.
Yeah.
Because no one was actually telling me to do these things.
What did you find the most difficult in navigating that? Like, a genuine question.
Yeah.
What did you like? It seems hard enough as it is, but
I think-
what did you find the most difficult of that?
I think the hardest thing was and is when I do reach a level of success, instead of living in it at all, I just
appreciate
immediately go to the next thing.
That's exactly how it fucking
never,
works.
It's never enough because I put that self-imposed pressure on myself.
So, I mean, and in essence, are you saying that we have, instead of success being a long-term overarching thing, we have moments of success?
Success is literally fucking temporary. I was
Right.
just having this conversation with, I think it might have been you guys recently, that I was like, success is such a fucking temporary thing, in my personal opinion, because I thought the success was like, okay, cool, I made it to this like little level and I'm just gonna fucking stay here and I can plateau and I'm good because I've achieved all these things and now my life is where it's supposed to be. But like, that shit can be taken from you in a fucking instant.
I don't
In
wanna
that
cop-
regard,
yeah.
yeah, but I also think like you can be having successes in some area of your lives where other areas of your life could be totally failing. Like you could be having successes on the
Yeah.
career front, on the friendship front, on the hobby front.
But then your relationship is
your
suffering.
relationship, your family, that could be suffering.
And-
you
and
know?
that's
like
how
your
it
relationship
fucking
with
goes.
yourself. Like
That's
all
actually-
of that
yeah.
can suffer because of like I guess what we're thinking of success.
Yeah.
But I think what Josh was saying about like how he resonated so hard with his parents, like I think I'm hardwired into like my view of success.
Okay.
And I think it largely like our dads were both cops.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
right.
Yep.
my concept of success that was taught to me was like job, money.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Job,
that
money.
was it. Like job, money.
It didn't
then you can get
matter-
the happy like American dream, good things, but you
Yeah.
need to work your ass off. And when you're consistently working your ass off and you have enough money that you can be comfortable, that's what success like was taught to me.
And my dad comes from a family of immigrants, so that made it so much more
Right.
pressurized
Oh, God,
from him.
yeah.
And Indian people, like they are just they are tough. And I think my Indian side of my family, I think a lot of them do listen actually, and they might resonate with this too. That they are starting to now break from like the shackles of like family trauma from a lot of different avenues, but it definitely carries on. I wonder where, because my dad did the same thing. My dad equated a lot
know
of
where
it
it comes
to
from?
it was like you need to work to earn money. It doesn't matter how grueling the job is, or it doesn't matter how
Survival. It's survival.
Yeah.
It's all survival. In definitions of success, it doesn't matter how grueling it is or what it does to your mental health or taxing on your body. It just matters how you get what you need.
Right.
But everybody needs different things, right?
But I think that's such like an important way to segue into like a point that I wanted to make, which is like some people are only able to see success, I think, as like money and job because that is their means of survival.
Right.
And they aren't able
Okay.
to see past that survival because our basic needs need to be met. We need to obtain money to get shelter, food, clothing, to meet our basic needs, take care of our kids. And we need money to fuel our whole life, essentially. So we need to work to survive. And some people then I think that is success when you're
Yeah.
just working to survive. But I also think that in our society with like our economic climate, like it's a privilege to be able to break free from the idea that success is more than just, you're working, your money, your career. Like, I think that is a true privilege to be able to think that way.
And you know what? This is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation at this time, is because I feel like during the holidays, I don't know if you guys' holidays was like this, but like during the holidays, I feel like everybody, even extended family you haven't seen in a while, is like, so what are you doing? You know? And like they're immediately asking like, oh, so you're still doing that same job, or oh, you're still doing that same thing, or what are you going to do next, or where do you think you're going to go from here? And they're constantly, I don't think it's like actually maliciously intended when they're asking these kinds of questions, but it puts a lot of fucking pressure on people to be like, oh, so what are you going to do now? Like, I'm nonstop. I'm anticipating getting the, so how's the movie industry been? Because it's been on fucking hold for like 2 years now, or like a year and a half at least. And I'm just like sitting here like, fucking hope somebody calls me, which I actually got a call yesterday, so very happy about that. But
and it's crazy because the thing is true, right, with your extended family, especially as everyone gets older, you really for 10 months out of the year very much live in your own bubble.
Absolutely.
And then it all comes crashing in.
Right.
For these 2 or 3 or however many holidays, you know, because not everybody celebrates Christmas, but like whatever, you're getting all these people together, and now it's like, you know, you deal with your group of friends, and usually people who are in groups are relatively in the same range. Then, like, your cousin comes in, they're, you know, a finance guy making $350,000 a year, and, you know, I work in education, like, Josh is still a student, like, those things start to clash together, and it's like, you have to kind of navigate that because people have different like definitions of what success is. That finance guy looks at you, and you could be happy with your situation and be like, yeah, like bills are paid, I have a really fulfilling career, and they're like, but you're not getting a raise,
right?
Like, they don't get it, like,
exactly. And they're coming into that, like, into just the holidays, even like with that kind of thing. And again, I don't think anybody's ever doing it with bad intention. I just think it's like the standard question that people fucking ask is like, so what are you doing for work, or what's next for you?
Everyone's goalposts are in different places, so like it comes off as judgmental because they are like always just go, 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 go. And maybe you have a very fulfilling life emotionally, and they just have a very economically fulfilling life. Like what Casey was saying is like, because that's their mindset, but it might not necessarily be yours. But then you start to feel guilty because we live in a society a lot of times where people want to have the popular opinion. Like, people want to be a part of that main group. So if you're not, then you start questioning yourself.
So I want to actually piggyback and ask a question, not just to you, but like kind of to everybody, and maybe even to everybody listening. Why is it that we care so much about what
because we're taught to care?
Well, it's deeper than that, though. Like, why is it that we care so much? Like, we care about so many different things, right? We care about the way we look. We care about love. We care about who we're loved by. We care about so many different, like, facets of things. Why is it that we care so much? Like, when it comes to holidays, why do we care solely about the opinions of friends, families, extended families, as far as success is concerned? Or why do we care about success overall as a whole? I know my reason, but why?
I think there's a societal expectation that is set about success.
I think that it comes from the fucking media.
I mean, I think the really media sets the tone for what is to be expected of success. I think our economic climate sets the tone for what is to be considered successful. Because, I mean, I think about it where I read the other day where the median income for a house to be able to afford a house is like $140,000.
So shit.
What I used to think of success was just being able to make $100,000 in my lifetime.
Right.
In my fucking lifetime.
I used to think when I saw 100,000, I'm like, oh, 6 figures. Now,
made it.
That's
big bucks. That's success.
In 2024, I'm hearing people who make over that still are struggling.
Yeah, in New Jersey, I read earlier this year, it's 170 to live alone comfortably in a home.
So now that factors into it, and you have to readjust what your interpretation of that means for success. Because if I'm thinking of that, I'm never in that rate. Who's going to own a house? If your idea of success was, I'm going to be a homeowner and that will make, like, that is my vision of success. Every day that is becoming increasingly harder. So it forces us to adapt our views of success. But I think that the media still forces us and kind of corrals us like sheep into believing like that, like, money, like, and I don't want to say that money isn't the only determining factor of success, because it's a large determining factor.
It is.
Success.
I hate the term money can't buy happiness.
I hate that.
I fucking can't
I
stand
had
that
that written in my fucking notes as the only note for this whole podcast.
like, yes, it does. Like,
Yes, it
it
absolutely
does.
fucking
Because
does.
we live, because of where we live and the time that we're
Yes,
living in.
it
Like, it
absolutely
absolutely does. Maybe it's not the only thing, but it absolutely can make you. I'm sorry.
It contributes.
If somebody
When money
paid off
does.
my student loan debt right now, I would be so fucking happy. Like, don't tell me I wouldn't be like.
Well, who are you to tell me I would not be?
Right,
Exactly, because
yeah.
I definitely
And
would be.
I think I'm not saying in the sense of like money, when people say money can't buy happiness, I'm not saying I want to be a fucking bazillionaire.
No.
I'm not
Correct.
saying I want to have
No.
$100 million. I'm saying I want to be able to put my bills on auto pay and not have to worry about overdrafting my account.
What a dream.
Yeah, I want to any bills.
Like,
I want to know.
I just
that-
want to be comfortable.
It's like the media pushes so much propaganda of like you can get this Netflix subscription, you can get this food subscription if your work is so demanding and so taxing, you can get this monthly food subscription that they help you stay on track of healthy meals and
That shit's
everything like
fucking
that.
expensive.
But
I've done that shit
shit's
before.
expensive, and
Yeah.
it's like I would like to know that I can take those payments out.
Yeah.
Without worrying that my bank's gonna call me and say, "Yeah, we're closing your account because you've overdrafted like $500." How the fuck do you even let it get to that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that even make sense?
Yeah, but I think like in the sense of like money can't buy happiness, like when so many people's like basic needs aren't being met, in that sense, money quite literally can buy you
It
happiness.
definitely
And
can.
that means that you're going to be able to afford medicine and food and shelter and be able to afford your rent payments ongoing or move into a place that's comfortable for you and your kids and not a one bedroom. Like,
And there's a lot
that can correlate to
There-
absolute
and
happiness.
Yeah, it gives you a different sense of freedom. Like it provides you with a lot more freedom because you have more flexibility to do more shit. Like point blank period.
And outside of like other generations, you know, like Casey, you were talking about survival before, but like when do we get to the point where we don't have to just think about survival, right? Like you were talking about like, having immigrant family, right? So the first maybe 2-3 generations, it's all about survival. But then the family makes that money, and then we're still traumatizing the fourth generation with like, you have to work your, you know, to the bone and work is everything. But like but you've put them in a position where they shouldn't have to think about, like, isn't that the point?
Well, and I feel like the most like common circumstance of where people don't have to live in survival mode like their parents and the generations before them is when you are inheriting that wealth that that generation built for you.
Sure.
Like I think of so many people that I know that they think of success and that like they think of themselves as successful people and they've never had to be in survival mode, so anything else that they've gotten out of life has been a success. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
I've run into people who inherited an immense amount of wealth, and they were like, I don't know what to do with all this money.
Because you don't.
And I'm like,
You know what?
talk to a financial advisor, and guess what they didn't do?
Talk to a financial advisor.
Right.
And guess what they did? Blew majority of that money, majority of it on dumb, careless, monetary things.
But yeah, because
in this life.
they've never made a crucial, consequential decision in their life. So
Yeah.
then you think you have this endless stream, and then you don't. But I just think in general though, like we're just so focused on, you know, work. Like I do want to hopefully get to a place in our society where more of us can try and get a little bit more worth out of life outside of just financial like success and stability. Like we should all want
in a
that.
perfect world.
Yeah,
that's
I don't.
that's
I
the
don't
goal,
disagree,
right?
but I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of families though don't think that way. Like
Right.
like what you said, like that's the goal. Like no, they don't think that's the goal, and I think that hurts a lot of generations. Like my family has like I'm third generation, and honestly, track wise, we're not doing so hot, and I still was able to go to college and get a job and rent an apartment on my own, which is not something my grandmother could have done when she came here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even so, and like I said, family track record, not great, not doing so hot overall as a unit, but like, you still get a bump up with each generation just
Right.
naturally. So I just would hope that like, as we have children, if we do, you know, our generation, like we try to promote like more success, defining success through personal growth and things like that.
And I think
not
how we
just
can do that moving forward is by like looking at success in the smaller, littler moments.
Right.
Like I had a successful, like, we had a successful conversation on the podcast. That is success.
Yeah.
Me
You know what
making
I
it here
mean?
today
Like,
to do
you know,
this,
exactly,
was a
like,
success. Yeah.
The fact that we made it through the work week and no one fucking snapped out.
Yeah.
That's
You're right.
successful. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, we got through another semester. That is success.
Literally, without
Yes.
even
You know?
dropping a class or dropping out, let alone.
I
Yes.
wanted to ask you a question specifically,
Yeah.
Josh, about school relating to success, because I feel like I have often felt like this, where since I am an adult that is still in school, I feel like that has like inherently affected the way I view my success. Like, I'm not going to be successful until I graduate school and get to that next level.
Going back to school at 28 years old has put me in a very weird state of psychosis. Like, it has changed the spectrum for me. I originally joined the military to go to school
Right.
because my family could not afford college and I couldn't afford college on my Subway salary. So like it wasn't even salary. And like I when I tried to go, I was 19 years old when I first started going to college. I dropped out of college probably when I was 22 years old, right after I got back from my first deployment. And I never went back. And unfortunately for me, coming back as an adult, it's a blessing and a curse. I think I'm so thankful for the experiences I went through without college, because I was able to be an adult and have to fall on my feet
Right.
without the need of that paper saying like I can ease my way through certain things. Because keep in mind, there's so many people with degrees, masters, bachelors, doctorates, that have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
Right. Oh, trust me, I know.
And they have like 8 to 10 years of
Right.
experience in this
Right.
one fucking thing, and then they get in the job field and they completely blow it the fuck up.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they have to forfeit whatever title
Right.
they've held before. And it's happened more often than not. And so like going back, like I really wanted to, I think I faced more of like existential crisis with success as to like, what do I want to do? What do
Yeah.
I want to do? Because I want to have a passion for something. If I'm going to work for the rest of my life or the foreseeable amount of my life, what am I going to be content with or happy, actually genuinely happy with doing? Because content, like with the military, I was content.
Right.
I know how to take orders. I'm very well disciplined in my own life. I was able to keep up with their fitness test every year. So I was like, yeah, I'm content. They pay me well. I'm content. I was severely miserable,
Right.
severely unhappy. So how do I avoid that going into the future? And so like, as an adult navigating school, it's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
It is, because I am getting the satisfaction of both. I'm getting the grueling nature of midterms, finals, having to turn in assignments in a time when I'm just trying to catch up to my adult life. Like I had to cancel class because I got a fucking gas leak in my
Right,
house.
literally.
Or I had to cancel me going to class, not
Right.
cancel class. I don't have that power.
I would do that shit every day.
I would. I had to not go to class because I had a
Right.
gas leak.
Yeah.
But my professor still marks me as unattended,
Right.
and that affects my grade.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? And they don't look at that as, oh, well, sweetie,
Something
okay,
happened.
some real life event happened to
Right.
you. No, they're like, well, you're an adult, you should have figured it out.
Right.
Bitch, PSE&G showed up to our front door with
And I'm
no
like,
notice.
and I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
Or
Huh?
even worse.
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Or even worse.
Or even worse, they're used to teaching 18-year-olds, and like, why couldn't you make it to choirs? Like they're very like
Yeah.
like stuck up about it. Like because I remember that in undergrad
But
too.
you
They're
know
like,
what?
why couldn't you get here? Like
Right.
life.
Another.
Well, when I was in undergrad, when I think of when I was in undergrad, yeah, I was probably fucking hungover is why I couldn't get there.
And
you
you
know?
know- and you know
in
what?
undergrad, that was my
Sure.
experience. I was that kid that
you know
I
what?
had no excuse as to why I couldn't get there. Otherwise, I was fucked
I'm
up.
so happy. I'm so happy you're willing to say that and admit that,
Right.
because I look at the kids that are in class now, and I'm so happy we're talking about definitions of success and just success overall, because like I look at the kids that are in class right now who sit in class for like an hour to 3 hours, because I think I have some classes that are like 3 hours long, that just play Roblox.
Right.
That's
and
fucking
play-
crazy,
and
spending
play
that much money.
Video games on their tablet, and I'm like,
But they're not.
But
Yeah,
they're not.
sure.
They're not spending the money. It's their parents, or it's
Right.
financial aid, or the taxpayer. It's whomever, and like it's unfortunate, but it's like I look at it not just in their level of success, because it's unfortunate for them that they're not taking that level of education serious, that they don't realize what they have in front of them and how valuable that is.
Mm-hmm.
I also was like that at 18, 19 years old. I thought I
Right.
had all the time in the world, and then I blunk my eyes, and now here I am. I'm almost 29.
And here's a bigger thought of that. We have these 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, because I was that kid when I got to undergrad. I
Yeah.
was like, I very much am concerned with everything but what you're trying to teach me right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I really, really wish I would have given a fuck. I think it would have made me a lot more successful in the job that I'm doing. But I was there at 18 because my school system was shoving it down my fucking throat that college was your only fucking option.
But you know what? You know what's so hard about colleges and just establishments of the gravity like colleges is that they're so oversaturated that there's bound to be things lost in translation.
Right.
Like I think it's like playing Whisper Down the Lane. I think the information as time goes on just isn't translating.
Right. Yeah.
I think I'm talking about levels of success right now going back to college as an adult.
Right.
I'm face to face with kids
Right.
that
That's what I
when I
mean.
was in school, they weren't even born yet.
Yeah, so like,
and so
you have a different view of
I
it.
have a completely
Yeah.
different view of how my upbringing was, and now my college upbringing. When I started college, they were starting high school,
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, man.
So
and
you're
now
kind
here
of
I
like
am, and
fly on the wall. Like, I know how this shit's about to hit the fan for you in the
Yes.
next few years, brother. Like,
Yeah.
but it almost feels futile in a way because you try to talk to them about
Right.
it. And I have a couple of friends that I made that I'm 28 now, and they're 19 to 20 years old. And a couple of these friends, like I've talked to them a few times about certain things in life, and they take it to heart and they take it seriously to a certain extent, and then the remainder of the conversation is completely black holed.
Right.
Like they're like, whatever Josh said, the remainder of that tail end of that conversation, I did not listen to. And then some crazy shit, miraculous shit happens in their life, or something specifically pertaining to the assignment in
Right.
class happens, and they're like, I didn't do it. Or
Right.
I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, well,
I just don't think that
I
like,
tried to tell you.
trying to pipeline kids into college institutions is setting them up for success when they're 18 years old.
I
Like,
wish
you
I
don't-
wish high schools were more like trade schools.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
when
I
I
agree with that.
before I went to high school, I wanted to go to a school around the local area that was a trade school as well. And my family was so adamant in telling me, you're not going to get a high school diploma from there. Then I found out after I graduated from high school, you do get a high school diploma
Right.
from there.
Right.
And you learn a trade.
Right.
Yeah.
I could have learned how to be a contractor or an
Right.
electrician or a mechanist or a machinist or
But how common is it that in blue collar families, they
Yeah.
always say to the generations below them that they want them to break into fields that are not blue collar? Because
Yeah.
the generation above me and my
Yeah.
dad's family is all very much blue collars: cops, truck drivers,
yeah.
military, blue collar. My entire fucking life. Why would you want to be a social worker? You should be a doctor. You should be a lawyer. You should something that requires me to go to 15 fucking years worth of school for.
Also, that's-
because
Can
that
I-
is what they think will be more successful
As if
than
that's
them.
attainable for everyone.
Because they
Yeah.
want me to have a more successful life than they
Can I
have.
ask you a more personal
Yeah.
question? And you can keep this or you don't have to keep this. Did they ever ask you like why you wanted to be a social worker?
No, absolutely not.
Like did they say like why would you want to do that when you can do this? That's inadvertently asking.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
it's not
Did they
yeah.
actually directly ask you like why did you want to be a social
No.
worker and what fulfillment is it bringing to
I've
you?
never ever been asked by.
That's
Well,
crazy.
my mom is totally different. My mom 100% understands the passion that I have for social work and has always guided me to follow my passion and what I think my calling is. My
yeah.
dad's family has always very much been, I don't know why you could be passionate about that. The world is so ugly and you're going to be so poor.
Dude, it took only up until me having to build like computers in front of certain people for them to realize, oh, maybe cybersecurity is the field
Right.
you want to go in. And I'm like, was me not trying to study it in school indicative enough that I wanted to do that? But no, because I originally was a nursing major and I dropped out of school. Well, you threw your passion away.
Right.
You said you were so passionate about that, and now you decided, well, maybe I was passionate about that, and some life-altering event happened to me.
Right.
And I decided to change my mind.
Right. Shit happens.
Nature is changed.
Right.
The wind shifts. Like, everything happens for a reason. And I think, like, that was another thing going back to school, was having an established career in the military for so many years and then losing that.
Right.
And then having to fall on my feet and figure out where I was going from there on. It just changed the whole spectrum.
Yeah, and I think, like, for me specifically, since my family has always very much geared or like put their ideas of success on me in terms of like my money and my career, like I know that I'm never going to meet those expectations being a social worker.
And that's fine.
I'm going to be poor forever. So I think what I've
Don't speak that shit into existence.
kind of like,
But are you going to be poor for yourself, or are you going to be poor like
economically? I will be poor.
Economically, to an economic standpoint, let them think what they want,
Right.
because they even think that people who are making $100,000 are poor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While I'm always like, I know like in my job I will be poor, but like that doesn't determine my success in my job.
100%.
I know that I'm a successful social worker.
Right.
Yep.
And I think I've transformed my idea like throughout my like teens, 20s, and like up to now about success is like, I just want to be independent.
The
Yeah.
world is so monetary, and I'm so happy that there are people like you in the world that
Go off.
want to continue to hone into your education and pursue your education so much further, that once you receive your furthering degree, you could be making an insane amount of money, and you know this. You could be. You could be. But
Because I was in class, let me tell you, because this is the funny part, because I was in class last week and we were doing a budget. And they said, we had a $400,000 budget for this program. And they said, all right, Casey, like hypothetically, what would you want to make as a master's level social worker from this budget? And I said $75,000. And she said, well, that's a very well paid master's level social worker. And I was like, brother, what am I paying $60,000 to get this piece of paper for then?
Yeah.
But I know that I will not be able to reach the next level of success in my career without it.
Right.
That's fucked.
And that for me is where the idea of success hinges so hard on like school and career for me. Because I think that's just where my life is saturated right now. If that
So
makes
fucked.
sense.
No, it does make sense. Absolutely makes sense.
did you want to say anything before I continue to monologue?
Yeah, I'm actually going to steal the conversation. from
Go
you.
ahead.
This is my fucking podcast. What the
I
fuck?
know.
I'm just kidding. You know, I'm going to steal the conversation a little bit, and I've like anxiously been tapping my leg, not because I'm itching to talk on my own podcast, but because I know that I personally had a much different upbringing than a lot of people. My dad made a lot of money as I was growing up, and I had a really interesting example of like success from a really young age. Like my mom stayed at home for fucking what, like 13, 14,
Probably for a good
15 years.
majority, yeah.
Yeah, probably like 15 years or something like that. So we were a single income household, and you know, my dad was doing a fucking great job, and my dad was working his ass off and hustling so fucking hard. Like I remember my dad would literally just like get a job and be out the door on the way to the airport, and like would just do whatever it was that he had to do to make that money. So thankfully I had a really good example of like working your ass off to get what you want. But I also had like this unrealistic expectation of what success was supposed to look like. For the audience listening, you guys are going to hear my fucking true colors right now. I literally grew up on a lake in like a really big house with fucking like 4 acres of property. Like my dad was very well off. And I think that for me, like that was my example of success. So I feel like I have constantly as an adult had this like never ending thing that I've been striving for, where I'm like the house that I live in has to be this certain size, or like the amount of property that I have, or like my dad had this fucking ridiculous amount of cars growing up. So like now hence literally look at me like acting the same way. And I'm also going to be super duper frank. This is what I was anxious about. I have, in my career as a stunt driver, I have made a good amount of money. Okay. Like I've gone over $100,000. And when I realized like the first time that I made $100,000 in a year, I was like, oh shit. And I remember I looked at my fucking accountant and I was like, that's fucking great. And he was like, yeah, good for you. And then I looked back at how I was feeling and I was like, I still don't feel like I have shit. Like, I was like, I realistically, like, even looking at the money in my savings account was like, I would be terrified to buy a house right now or to even think about buying a newer car.
I remember you saying
off
that.
of a lot. I was fucking,
Yeah.
Ryan, I've been so transparent with you. I mean, and listen, like, I, have felt like I've done pretty well for myself, and it all got ripped out from underneath me, like, kind of recently in the past, like, year and a half, because now the movie industry is, like, has been on strike for fucking God knows how long. So now I'm like, am I going to make $30,000 this year? Am I going to make $20,000 this year? I might not even make $10,000 this year. Like, I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen. And this is where, like, my mindset, I feel like this literally kicked in for me probably like maybe 5 years ago, feeling like success was temporary, because my amount that I make every year changes depending on the amount of people that fucking call me and the kind of movies that they're fucking writing. When they write Black Panther, I'm doing fucking good. When they're not writing Black Panther, I'm not fucking doing that great.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like it really changes for me every single year, and I realize that I personally have no fucking control over the amount of money that I'm making in my career. Sure, could I work my ass off even harder, get better at different skill sets, blah, 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 and hope that people call me? Yes. But even at one point, I was like, this still isn't shit. And it did not matter how much money I had saved up or what kind of fucking car I was driving or how much driving I had done that year or how much money I had spent or how much money I'd put away. It did not fucking matter. I still felt the fucking same. And
And did that not feel like shit to you because the expectation that you had set growing up as to what an okay amount of money was?
Yes.
Okay.
Because then I think that I recently like learned what even some other stunt performers were making, and I was like, I'm really not shit. Like, I was like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
This is fucking crazy. I'm really not shit. And then, like, I think that now, the past, like, year and a half or so, I think is why, even though I'm not making nearly the amount of money that I used to make, now I'm kind of, like, feeling a little bit more relaxed because I'm kind of like, this shit is out of my hands and it's temporary anyway. If I make fucking $450,000 next year, fucking sick. But the next year I could be in the exact same position that I'm in right now.
And that uncertainty has to be like terrifying. Like I
It
think
is.
like
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna get the certain amount of money that's going to hit my bank account every 2 weeks.
I have
Granted, it's not
gone-
a lot of money. It really isn't, and it's gone in the next week. But I think like the cool sense of at least what I'm hearing as a silver lining as to what you've experienced and like kind of not having all that work now is like you've built a cushion for yourself where you reached a point of success in that area where now you have the freedom to create success in other aspects like this podcast. You know what I mean? Like you have the financial and time freedom wise to be able to take on this project, which is successful.
Yeah, and that's really how I've had to look at it after, like, I felt like the rug was ripped out from underneath me the past, like, year and a half. Like, I was like, okay, you have to be able to do something else that's going to make you feel like you have a reason to keep going every week, every day, every whatever. Like, I was like, you have to create something for yourself that is going to make you feel like you were successful, whether that was adding money into your bank account or draining money from your bank account by buying all this fucking podcast equipment.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I really had to figure something else out for myself. And it's so sad. Like, I don't know. I think even thinking about money and how it's tying into success, because unfortunately that's like literally just the fucking way the world works. And that's how the way the world is always going to work because of, I feel like the media and like keeping up with the Joneses, and it's just it's like a fucking learned habit or a learned behavior that is going to be super fucking hard for us to unlearn. Unless if everything in the fucking world becomes free, then we're really going to be able to see who everybody is and how people really like think.
The dollar falls to shit. And
That's what I'm saying.
As a society, our collective views of money shifts radically.
Also, I mean, you have different types of economies that are capitalistic, socialistic, communist. Like, everybody does different things. So levels of success. Some countries don't even know that's not even a word that even derives in their dictionary. necessary.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, the government takes care of everything for me.
Yeah.
So
it sucks because it's fucked either way.
Well, we essentially live in a capitalistic society that forces us to assign success with money.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm
that
surprised
is
where that
what
didn't
a
come out of Ryan's
capitalistic
mouth.
Society makes
That's-
you do.
that's-
that's kind of the whole point. Is like
Yeah.
your entire society revolves around
Yep.
the exchange of money for goods.
Yeah, but isn't it fucked? Like even me being transparent
Yes.
about like how much money I was making, and I'm like, I still could not buy a fucking house. And you know what's crazy too is like, I think even with that, I feel like I'm constantly going to be living in a semi state of fear because of the nature of my job and the nature of my work and how my money comes, because I'll go fucking 6-9 months without a
Right.
single cent deposited into my fucking bank account.
Right.
And I'm just like, I
Yeah.
have to live with that. So for me, even the thought of, because that was a big thing in my head too, was I was like, I want to own a house by the time that I'm 30 years old.
Right.
Look, here I am at fucking 28 years old right now. I'm like, ain't no fucking way.
Right.
I'm doing that right now or anytime soon. Like I physically cannot, even if I have the down payment in my fucking bank account, I'm like, fuck no.
But the caveat to that, and even for a lot of the listeners out there, is that it's like stuff like owning a house, that's economical. So
It is.
a lot of that is not inherently just the user's fault. You know,
Yeah.
like as a society, that entirely does not encompass exactly like what we can do in our ability as far as like where our work ability comes from and where we derive like our fundage from. You not being able to afford a house like in your own standard, or not being able to afford a house in your own scope of life, probably might not have equally as much to do with like what you're making versus what's happening in the economy completely. Because like again, anyone can see it. A house in New Jersey that's 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms
$450,000
is easily $450,000 plus.
Yep.
But in Texas, a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom is a little under 150 grand.
And then you have to make other compromises.
And then
Yes.
And not make dog
Yes.
shit for a salary.
yeah.
But I
I live
think-
in Texas.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, that's
literally
and,
living in
and,
Texas.
and I guarantee you economies over the world probably have their own way of doing things, so it's a completely different spectrum. But yeah, it is very economical, so you can't put all that pressure on yourself or be as hard on yourself, because I've seen you
Oh, I know.
very visibly stress about specific avenues of money, or not so much the money itself, but where the money's coming from. Because I mean, it makes no sense. It's like, why would you deplete a river that's never filling itself? You know,
Well,
like
also, like, I think my other point in even being transparent about the kind of money that I've made and, like, you know, kind of where I'm at, generally speaking, especially being probably the only one in this position, even in this room right now. And it happens to me all the time. I think that it needs to be kind of normalized that, like, just because somebody is making even $250,000 a year does not mean that they feel like they're way the fuck up here, because that's where my, oh, success is a temporary feeling comes from, because I've felt like I was successful, and then I was like, okay, what's next?
I think
you know what I mean.
I think
and then
people just don't have to look at others so heinously. Like
Well,
I,
also-
Yeah.
like when we started like when I first started dating you in high school. I saw your house,
Yeah.
and mind you, my family just got through a bankruptcy, barely.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at your house, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what am I stepping into? Like, my family is barely surviving, and this girl's got it all. That's crazy. But then, like, at the same time, could I judge her for that?
Right.
By no means, because I was like, well, she's not the one who made the money or did
Yeah.
all of this.
Yeah.
Like, this is all her dad. And my dad did the same to provide for us. And so did my mom. My mom was always working, so I don't want to discredit her. And she still works. But I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, like, holy shit. And that, to some people, it brought a lot of envy. For me, it brought a lot of envy at first. But then, like, as I got older, I was able to, like, dissipate a lot of that envy. And even as an adult now, I don't even, like, I don't look at you or like, the people surrounding you that I know could be well off. I'm like, you know, they probably don't define that as their level of success.
Well, what I
think-
was gonna say is, even when I started dating you in high school, I was like, his family's fucking well off. They got steps in their house. I was like, they have
I
steps
used
in
to
their
think
house.
you were rich if you had steps in your house.
That I lived in a fucking farmhouse, so I did.
True.
You know,
I
like,
think everyone had those things. I remember seeing a Facebook one time that was like a you know, like that was just like a certain things that you thought were rich about.
His house
people.
had like a fucking foyer or whatever. When you go in and you put your shoes and the shit. We didn't have that shit. Like it's crazy.
We rented
Mudrooms?
it.
Well,
we rented it.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like,
But
this is the thing.
you had a
is-
basement.
Well, here's the
A
thing.
really
though.
nice
That was the
one.
one for me. If you
That
had a
was the
basement,
one
but you
for
had
me.
money.
If you had a
it was
basement, you're rich.
and it was a finished, not moldy basement.
Correct.
Yeah, but
Correct.
It didn't
Like
have the smell of
very
mildew.
finished.
My
It
dad did a
not-
good job or
It did
whatever.
not
But-
have a smell of mildew.
But that changes for every generation. Like the generation before us, it was if you had like a grandfather clock. Like it was like there were
Yes.
things that like
But also
know?
the whole point is it's like it literally looks different for everyone. Like I just said,
Yeah.
I walked into your house and I was like, they got fucking steps and there's a million kids running around here. Like they must be well off.
sure.
You know, and your parents even allowed you to drive their car, which I was like, my dad won't even let me look at that fucking car. Like I was like, there's no way. Like I was like, they must not even be worried about it in case if he fucking crashes it because they're that good. You know, and like
it was a Toyota.
then you find out like we were renting that house. You know what I mean? So like it looks different for everyone. And I think that again, like the whole point that I was trying to make, even if it looks one way on the outside, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always that way on the inside.
I
or
agree.
even that
I
that's how the
agree.
person is
I
feeling.
I think it's the same way with everyone
Yeah.
in this room.
yeah.
I mean, I think
that's the whole
of
point of this.
some people that are wealthy, and I think, damn, you could probably be driving that really nice car, and you could be defaulting on your payment, and I never know about it.
Yeah,
Or-
that shit could
or-
be on
or
the
you
edge of
could
getting
have-
repossessed.
Or
Right.
you could have lost your job
That day.
That day.
That day.
Sure.
And I'm looking at you and your Maserati and I'm like, damn, man's well off. But you could have lost your $200,000 job and now you got to figure it the fuck out. And I didn't know that.
And
To
it's
be honest,
so
Maserati's
easy
a piece
to
of shit
say.
anyway.
It's so easy to just make that quick judgment of, oh, well, that person's well off from
Sure.
like a picture or
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
Yep.
face value. It's so easy to make that judgment.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many times on Instagram do I see pictures of vacations? I'm like, damn, they got money. Like,
No, they put that shit on their
They
travel
put it on a
card.
credit card.
They put it on their
They put it
travel
on a credit
card.
card.
Yes.
And honestly, in a way, in the society that we currently live in, I almost respect those people because what they're saying is I'm not going to let this awful economy, this awful capitalist
Hold
system,
me
like,
down.
hold me back from having fun.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
but they are also, though, and I don't think it's malicious, but a lot of the times falsely projecting wealth because they're
Yup.
also, so it's a
Depends.
tough road. It's a tough road to,
Depends on the
But are they
user.
doing it
Depends on the
intentionally
user.
or are they doing it because that's what's going to make them happy?
I think it's case by case.
Yeah.
It is depending on the user because I think like the person who wants to show off that wealth that doesn't have that wealth but they need to like flex for the internet, they're just going to do that regardless. But the people who are like they can take grace in what they've got and they're like, "Oh my god, we can actually afford to go to Disney."
Right,
Holy shit. And then
Yeah.
they go to Disney and maybe they post a few pictures from it, but they don't post like 1,000,001 pictures from it.
Yeah.
I just went to California for a week and it was so fucking cool in October. It was one of the coolest times I've had in California. However, I barely could afford it. Barely. Like I had $100 to my name when I came back.
But nobody would have known that.
And no one would have known that.
They would have just saw the cool pictures that you posted.
They
yeah.
would have
Yep.
saw the cool Instagram stories
Yeah.
I saw, not realizing that I was behind on like 4 credit card payments.
Sure, sure.
And I was also struggling for cash. And who cares? I say who cares. I cared at that time. But what I'm saying is that it's not what everyone thinks it is.
Right.
And that's fine. Like, I'm doing better now.
Yeah.
But at that time, it wasn't that fine. And many people should be able to admit that. But I think because of the way society is geared, we're not allowed to admit that to ourselves.
I think that's the biggest problem. And actually, just listening to you guys talk about a couple of the topics that you've brought up at this point, I think the big thing that I have taken from defining success over the years is avoiding comparison. That's literally what we just did for like the last 20 minutes, right? Like it's all about comparison. Whether it's to other people or to societal norms or to this movie or this TV show or what this, all the things. A lot of the times, like media, when people say the media, they think of like newscasters or like financial advisors. Like, no, I think
Media is
I'm
you
talking about
posting, is
movies.
me posting,
right.
is Bree
I'm
posting.
talking
Even
about
television
movies,
and
TV
movies,
shows,
though, too.
Yes.
That's totally
Social media,
fictional.
yes.
Like, a lot of the times we take cues in society from things, like people that grew up in the early 2000s, the Home Alone house was your version of
Yeah.
Yes.
Buku Bucks, right?
Yes.
Like that house is
Yeah.
crazy. Like, how did Kevin's dad afford to take a whole family on vacation and blah blah
Dead
blah? Like,
ass.
you know
Yeah,
what
and
I
then
mean?
they forgot the fucking
Right.
kid. Yes.
It's like that's the meme right now, but it's
Right.
true. But I think that's our biggest problem in how we all define success is that we're always comparing it to something else.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of us, myself included, have to take the time to be very, self-reflective and just look at what we've done and how we got there. There's always these like platitudes, and I think some of them are corny and some of them aren't. But a lot of the times people are like, I look at my feet and I think about like all of the places they've taken me, and like it sounds corny to say out loud. It sounds really corny to say out loud.
I've never heard that.
But I think the thought behind it is good. Of like, we take for granted the accomplishments, things that I now would consider success, that other people would be like, oh, okay, like, so what? And I'm like, yeah, but nobody.
It meant a lot to me.
I never thought that I would be able to do
Yeah.
this, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Right.
success. I think
Yeah.
I said this, in another episode that hasn't come out yet, potentially, but like we have to be just more generally positive to ourselves, nicer to ourselves.
Yes.
Because that's how we're going to be able to define success without it being temporary.
And stop
Yeah.
trying to be the shell of someone else. Like,
Yeah.
just stop.
Also,
Like,
stop showing
Or a
off
shell
on
of
the fucking
yourself.
internet.
Just show yourself more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
I just think using comparison as your North Star is like really dangerous,
It is.
potentially.
Absolutely. God damn. See, this is why I wanted to have this fucking conversation, because I feel like, honestly, even throughout the holiday season, like a lot of people are going to be seeing their family members and they're going to be asking like, so what are you doing for work now? Or, oh, are you still at that job? Or, oh, I can't believe you're still doing this or whatever. And you might hear little whispers and chatter and whatever. But like, maybe even have this conversation with a family member that's asking you like, oh, you're still at that job. What are you going to do next? And maybe you could get into a deeper conversation with them than just, yeah, I'm still at this job, or feeling like a little embarrassed that you feel like you're still in the same place that you've been in for however many years. You feel like they're judging you. Maybe get them into like a deeper conversation like this,
Right.
where then you can really get to learn something about them, or maybe even be able to fucking teach them something.
Listen,
in my personal opinion.
I even though I'm not getting my degree at the end of this semester, I'm one step closer to getting my
Hell
degree.
yeah.
And you know what?
That's an accomplishment.
I have to think about that very granularly, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Many people give up at this step, just like what you said, I think right before or at the beginning of this podcast. We made it through the semester. At the beginning, I don't know how I thought I would have survived.
No.
Honestly.
I think both of us
literally-
spoke to each other the first week of the semester and we're like, holy fuck, when's the end?
Honestly,
Like,
I like tunnel vision my way through it because I don't know how I made it. But
in the blink of an eye, it happened though.
where I'm getting at with that is like, it might not come now. It's gonna come when it needs to, and I think you just have to be fine with that.
And I think there's points where you can check in and like have like natural check-in points to look back on
Yeah.
what's been going on.
Yeah.
Like I think of the end of a semester, like, okay, I get my grades. I can look back at everything that I've accomplished.
Yeah.
I've written 8 or 9 papers on these topics. I've been to Harrisburg. This is what I've done this semester.
There you go.
I mean, that's what I mean, just to take it back and make the point even stronger, like making success into more moments.
Yes.
Like moments of his success rather than longer time periods of success.
Absolutely. And honestly, if you're like having trouble with feeling like, oh, I haven't been successful or anything, and like I don't have anything that like, I'm necessarily doing great at, or like I have no point, you know what I mean? I think that like even making little to-do lists day by day might help.
I've got a good little one.
Do you?
I've got one specific thing that I have been very successful at this year.
Let's hear it.
It's been almost a year since I've bit my nails.
Go off. See what I'm
Wow.
saying?
A
Yeah,
whole
that's
year?
growth.
I still bite the skin on my
I
fingers.
still bite the skin
but
on my
don't-
fingers, but
don't
I have
bite
not bit my nails
I
down.
don't bite my
See?
fingernails
And that's
anymore.
you're successful in doing that.
And that is a hard thing.
Little moment of success.
And that's exactly where I was going with this, is like, even if there's something that you know that you do every single fucking day, like make a to-do list so that you have something to check off of your fucking list
Yeah.
every single day, because it'll make you feel like you're working towards something else. Even if you're like, okay, wake up, brush teeth, eat breakfast. If you can get yourself to do that, fucking sick. Next week, you can add, make the fucking bed in the morning.
Right.
I don't do
Yeah.
that shit every day. If I was checking that shit off my checklist every day, I bet you it would get done.
If you're
Yeah.
someone who's horrible at flossing your teeth, you can be like, okay,
Stop
I'm
talking
gonna
shit about me.
I'm gonna floss my teeth. Cool. Floss your teeth. Even if you tell yourself you're gonna do it once a week, cool. Did you do it once a week for a year? Wow. One year doing it once a week? Fuck yes.
I was even doing that with drinking water at one point. I had every
did it
single
with
time that I
drinking
would
water as
drink
well.
a bottle of water, I
Yep.
would check it off my
And I
list.
think like having a planner
Yeah.
has been the most revolutionary
Yeah.
thing for me.
You could use your fucking
'cause
notes in your
especially
iPhone.
when success can be tracked by like productivity.
Yes.
A planner allows you to see how productive you were.
Yes.
So now, does anybody here have an idea of how to maybe keep someone accountable without feeling like they have someone looming over them? Because there's a lot of people who thrive off of feeling like they have a watchful eye over them when they're productive.
Ooh, that's me. Let me tell you something. I literally, when it comes to even something as simple as like editing the podcast, a lot of the times I will go to a coffee shop because I feel like other people are watching me work. And so it makes me actually work instead of scrolling on my phone or like whatever. I'm definitely one of those people.
So there's
keep
probably
going with
people.
your-
So there's probably people out there, and where I'm going to that point is that there's probably some of you guys out there that deal with that, where you feel like you're not being productive enough. But how do you alleviate that? Do you guys have any?
Well, I think productivity for me is a little bit challenging because my days are so flexible.
Yeah.
I come from
Yeah.
like my job is very much like I don't give a fuck when you do it, just make sure that it's done.
Cool.
So I very much have had to learn how to structure my days to be able to include getting my regular work done, getting my work done. Where like I feel like I am the most productive from like 12 to like 3:30 p.m. I can be generally
that makes a lot
productive
of
before
sense.
noon, but like when I can really lock in and like bang out the most stuff, like
Yeah.
is like in that afternoon hour. I think like being realistic with your timing
Yes.
and like focusing on what you can get done and being
Right.
like, cool, I got that done.
Like
to
actually being tangible of like
Right.
everything you can do, like what you know you're capable of doing in
Right.
that time
Absolutely.
frame. Yeah.
I think for me, because I have little to no flexibility in my schedule right now, I work so much. I think the big thing I've been doing for like the past 3 to 4 months is if I know I have to get a lot of stuff done, instead of getting so overwhelmed by the amount of things that I have done, if I get 5 minutes randomly in the day, I do one of those things because I know, and I go, you know what? I got something done. And because I know that my to-do list will be never ending for the
It
rest
is
of my
never
life.
ending.
So
Actually-
so I think with the talk of lists and to-do lists, I think they're super important, but I think looking at them as like, I'm going to complete this, you're not. Like realistically, you're not.
I got a note from my therapist recently who told me to make 2 different lists, a to-do list and a to-start list. So if you can start
Right.
something, like if you can start a project, like start cleaning your house. So you don't have to clean your whole house in one day, but if you
Sure.
can start cleaning your house, maybe if it's even just like picking up all your dirty dishes and putting them in the fucking sink, you started that and you still get to check it off of your list and not feel like you have this overwhelming amount of stuff that you have to complete that's never getting done because there's too much shit on your list. Because
Yeah.
there's stuff that's going to be on your list that's never ending that you're just constantly like do. Like
Yeah.
for me, for example, I have like a to-do list every fucking week of how many times I'm supposed to post on social media. Like, come on, bitch, that shit's gonna happen every single week.
Right.
Every
Yeah.
single week.
Yeah.
It's not
there's
gonna
no
change.
there's no reason to believe that you're ever going to complete that. And,
No, you're never
and
gonna finish that.
It's been so huge for me, not just in maintaining positivity, but also just actually getting things done. Like truly, I would get so overwhelmed because I'm like, oh, I just don't have enough time to do anything. And then a random 5 or 10 minutes opens up, and I do. It might be the smallest thing on that list, but now it's
Yep.
one less thing. And I'm on this very snowball effect kind of feeling where I'm like, all right, I'm getting things done. The important stuff is getting done, and other things are going to pop up, but that's okay because I'm still getting stuff done. Like
Yeah.
you're never not productive, which
Yep.
is good.
And that piggybacks off of everything that we've been talking about. Like more things as the days go by are going to pile up. It's just about the process of how are you going to separate those separation of duties. Like how are you going to separate the workload?
Yeah.
And in what capability are you going to be able to tackle it? Is it laundry or is it dishes? Is it folding clothes or is it simply putting a video game in a wooden crate somewhere so that your living room doesn't look
Right.
messy? It's different in every scale.
And
It's
it can
just-
be different day by day.
It's just how you prioritize it. It can be different by every day. I wouldn't say as much as like starting too many tasks, because I feel like starting too many tasks without a finishing and end result might cause a lot of anxiety for a
That
lot
makes
of people.
me overwhelmed.
It's
just
different
thinking
for
about
everybody.
it.
And actually,
'Cause
when
I
she
think
brought it
about
up,
going through
I was
my
like,
day.
oh, I could start doing that, but if I start that and then start
Yeah.
something else, I'm gonna kill myself.
Well,
because
it's
That's
I'm
different.
how
like,
I
Listen.
feel like 98% of the time during the week. I'm like, if I rearrange this, then I'm going to have to do this differently. And then it's going to
Exactly.
fuck this up.
It's
Like-
different for
Exactly,
everybody.
exactly.
It's different for everybody. And like, I'm not gonna lie, I did the to start list for like a week, and I was like, wow, that was cool. And I haven't done it since then. But it's okay. You know, it changes for each person. And like, again, the definition of success is gonna be different person to person. And quite honestly, if that is a conversation that has come up over the holiday or is coming up for the holiday, like, this is why I wanted to have this conversation today, because I felt like it was important. And I feel like in some way, shape, or form, this is going to be happening for everyone, even if it's just somebody asking a woman, like, so when are you going to have kids or this or that
Definitely,
or whatever.
definitely.
Like, there's always this consistent pressure of time and, you know, leveling up in a sense that is
Yeah.
never, ever, ever going to fucking end. And like, I think that it's important to even think about these kinds of things and maybe start these conversations, or like just try to figure out how to get people into deeper conversations so you don't have to feel like they're fucking judging you, quite frankly. Like, I just think that that's something that is consistently happening. It's just always never ending going to be happening. So if you can find a
And-
way to make a deeper conversation, I feel like you're going to get better connections
And I
that
feel
way
like if
anyway.
you can't find yourself in a way to make a deeper conversation about success, you can always just just reflect with yourself. Like, this can be a time that you can reflect on what your own definitions of success are and your own
Yeah.
relationship with
And I
success.
mean, you can change the conversation to any fucking thing. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
even have to be about success. That's just a suggestion of like, maybe flip the script a little bit and be like, so what makes you feel like you're successful?
Right.
And then
Ooh.
if they start telling you like, oh, because I make this much money in my job and my kids are happy and they're going to school and they're going where they wanted to go and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, dig a little deeper though. Like, does that personally make you feel successful or just financially?
and if you're not,
I'm just thinking of you absolutely destroying a boomer with that conversation.
That's
Like,
the point.
They'll
and
just
if you're
malfunction.
Not,
That's the point.
If you're not the kind of person that is able to consciously mitigate that kind of conversation, like if you're not able to divert the conversation from that, try over expressing the things that you're doing in your life. Try not overcompensating, but overexpress what you do. If you are an artist, overexpress the amount of art you're putting out, or the avenues you're taking to put
Or
the
even
art
if you're,
out.
even if you're not putting any out right now, maybe you're taking the time to recharge during the holidays so that you have enough energy to start working.
Yeah.
again.
That
There you
actually,
go.
Fine.
yeah, that actually made me just like kind of springboarded something I was thinking about too. Is that we also define success in like very concrete terms. Like, I think we also have to get out of the mindset of like beginnings and ends of like the year or like a month. Like, being like, you can start being successful on a random Tuesday.
Yes,
Like,
we can.
Every
Tuesday.
I'll leave off with this. Every wonderful technology or asset to the world, to the greater common asset of the world, has always been started as an idea.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
every single thing, whether it's a mailing company or a jet engine company, any company who started out in humble beginnings understand that they started out with the minimal of the minimal, and they realize, whether it's the biggest tech company like Apple started in a garage, Amazon started in a garage. Most of these companies that you look at nowadays started in a house or garage. So maybe it might take you more time than the other individual. Who cares? If you are honing in on this one specific thing and you are becoming the subject matter expert of this one specific thing that you are good at, just do it.
Yep.
Just do it.
Hell yeah.
You're damn right. You guys, I feel like that's a fucking episode. How do you
Let's
guys feel?
wrap.
That was such a sick one between the four of us. Shut the fuck up.
I know. I was worried that there's going to be a lot of talking.
No,
My
I
toes
think-
are gold.
Yeah,
I can't feel my
I have to
feet.
pee so bad.
I was
Anyways.
just experiencing whiplash. I was like,
Oh man. All right, you guys. Well, I feel like it is time for us to start wrapping up this episode here. I didn't even get to tell you guys that are listening to the podcast where we actually are today. We're sitting at my shop right now. It's called The Hideout. There's a bunch of cars here and stuff. It's fucking freezing.
It's cold.
because it's December. It's December.
Absolutely brick.
Yes, we also don't have a bathroom here, and I have to pee, so it's time for us to go. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys got a little bit of motivation from this podcast, or maybe we like open your mind a little bit to start just thinking about success success in a different way than the standard way, or maybe I would hope that you guys feel a little bit less alone when it comes to thinking about dreadful things like success and where you are in life. So, thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I have no idea what you're doing right now. You could be folding laundry, on your way to a family member's house, or on your way to work. Whatever it is, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. I would appreciate if you guys could leave a comment in the comment section, because that would really let me know kind of where you guys are at with this podcast and what kind of episodes you enjoy, which ones you don't enjoy. As always, feel free to reach out to us on social media. I'll leave everybody's links in the description below. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you next Tuesday. Bye. Are you fucking kidding me? No way. All right, talk to you soon on the next URL versus